Hi, welcome to the first episode of Straight from the Desk, recorded in the brand new studio. I really hope that you will love the future productions here. It was really kind of interesting for me to see if I can work here in that space, because always like kind of changing the workroom entirely is just a really fresh start. And I was really happy to paint that first bust here in the new studio, and I hope you like the outcome. So in this video we will paint the Don Quixote from Nuts Planet, sculpted by Romain van der Bogart. And I really love the figure. I love that cheeky smile, and I also love the story. So I wanted to convey that mood of the story also in the paint job, and I'm going more for like a moody palette here. So the face that we will cover here in the first chapter will be kind of pale, tired skin, and I think together with that cheeky smile on the face and a little color variation introducing purple tones in the face, we can create like something that is very nice and contrasting to the warm tones in the armor. Here in this figure we really have like two topics. One is like the soft skin tissues and the cloth that will be covered here in the first video, and the second one will be all about real metal armor and how to achieve that worn, weathered and rusty look on that. So here we are with the wonderful Don Quixote from Romain van der Bogart from Nuts Planet, and I really love that cheeky smile. For the skin tone, as I said before, we want to go for something rather emotional and not really naturalistic. So we'll have a play with like a pale skin tone with a bit of purple here and also some ochre tones. So on the palette we have some Schmincke Titanium White, some Old Mud from the Secret Weapon range, some Dark Sea Blue from Model Color, some black, it's Abaddon Black from Games Workshop, some Oxide Yellow from Chimera Colors, some Oxide Red, also Chimera Colors, and something that almost appears black, but it's a very dark purple, also from Chimera Colors. We will start with the Old Mud color, a little bit of the red oxide, and some white here to the side. And we're starting between heavy and medium base tone consistency. You can see we've started on the figure in black and white, starting off with some Chaos Black from Games Workshop, and then hit from the top with some of the Tamiya white. And you can see it really covers quite nice and easy. We're also going over the details such as the eyes and the eyebrows. One problem that you have when you really try to carefully avoid those areas is that you leave a little bit of black and white foundation to the sides, and sometimes it's a little tricky to create the exact same shade of skin tone again. So it's a little bit easier just giving the whole surface the same tone in the beginning. Okay, so I will just apply that base tone here, and we will be back with the dried base color. Alright? Okay, this is how the figure looks with the base color in place, and I think it's really nice to actually observe the sculpt here at that stage and have a look at all these different volumes that we find. And it's quite cool actually to see how much character this face has, and like small details like that crooked nose or these small round cheeks are actually really fantastic to pick out. So we will first start with the nose, because this is really like a very prominent spot, and for the first highlights we'll take a look at the profile, and you can see this here where we have that dramatic shift of angles here from the forehead to the nose. Definitely deserves a stronger highlight here, followed by this highlight here, and the last one is the highlight on the tip of the nose, followed by the highlights to the side on the nostril. Okay, we will first start with our base tone in the back of the brush and a little bit of pure Schmincke Titanium white in the tip of the brush, and we'll start with a loaded brush here. Okay, that looks nice. And with the white that we still had on the other side of the tip of the brush, we can highlight this here and also already pull it down here towards the tip of the nose. Okay, and we're continuing by just adding white to the tip of the brush, and we're still working with the same base color in the back of the brush. I'm also mixing a bit more white here to the side. And you can see actually here with just the light from the desk, we can actually see quite nice this. The highlight really runs here all the way into that crevices here. And also up here. We're now working more with the glaze consistency. You can see the pigments really gather at the end of the brush movement, so I was able to really pull it nicely out of that crevice here. And it gathered on the top of the cheek. So we're doing the same here. And having a bit of that light glaze in the back of the brush and some white on the tip, we can push these highlights a bit more. And here where we have that more wrinkly bit of the texture here to the side of the eye, we can also directly start connecting our main highlight here, just with lines here in that more wrinkled area. And at this stage here, we're really overdoing the contrast a little bit. It's one of the things I think that is very good to keep in mind is that when you paint a miniature, it cannot look good at all times. So there will be phases where you need to exaggerate some of the contrast because you know it will be less later on or so. But that is quite important to know that, because a lot of people are always extremely careful because they try that the miniature looks good at all times. And I think it's really not possible, or at least not easy if you try to do that. Just believe in yourself that you can achieve actually the look that you're going for. So I'm just trying to continue here that highlight work volume by volume, and we're working our way up here. So here we will just highlight these smaller volumes underneath the cheek and create a little bit of already the idea of a shadow here under that cheek volume. A bit darker. And by adding more white, we can create a brighter highlight tone. I'm just blending that here, like the small prominent highlights that I just dotted in, and then I'm softening that out. For a sculpture like this here, that is very well detailed and defined in the depth of the wrinkles, you're really quite free actually to choose the technique that you want to use. You can work wet and wet or with layers and glazes. Sometimes if a figure isn't all that well defined, it forces you a little bit more to, I don't know, either use more washes or work more opaque and controlled, but here we can really play freely with our tones. So I will just continue in the same manner, highlighting also the other side, and we'll be back to do some refining work. Okay, as you can see, I continued with the highlights along the cheeks and also on the forehead. I think it looks quite nice so far. As I said, the contrast is now quite overdone, but at that stage this is really desired. So We're continuing here with the white of the eyes, and we're doing that with our light base tone here. And you can see I'm trying just to really place it on the upper half of the eyeball. And we're increasing the contrast here with a dab of the white and then using the color from the back of the brush. And a little bit additional color here to blend it out. So we don't want the white in the eye to be too white, so that's why we're doing that with the skin tone. This way we definitely achieve a natural result. One thing that you can see is typical with those larger round sculpted eyes, it's kind of important to also make sure that the upper outline and also the lower outline, so both outlines towards the eyelid, are really clean. Already at that stage, that can make quite a difference for later on when we define the straight look of the figure. For this figure, I said I want to go for a more like stronger, not so realistic setup for the skin, as this is really quite a nice, crazy looking figure, and I want to keep that a bit more on the expressive side. I mentioned earlier we will work with some purple, and we will just work with a tiny bit of the purple here from the Chimera paints, some of our mud. As you can already see on the palette, this is more like between heavy and medium glaze consistency, and we'll use that first around the eyes. Okay, and just with a clean brush we can pull out some of the pigments here in that transition area. Okay, and I will also introduce some purple at other spots, for example here the temple area. I'm trying to intensify the purple look here more around the deeper crevices and in the corners of the eye. We'll also add a bit of that glaze here in the shadow area of the cheek, but really more as a light glaze, so we don't really stain our nice highlights. Okay, adding a bit more purple here to the side. Okay, yeah, I think that is good. I don't want to overdo it, so we're just leaving it at that stage here. I will also add a bit more red to the palette and we'll be back to do some introduction of the red color zone. Okay, I've added a bit of red here on the palette. This is red from Model Color. I'm just thinning that down using some water to achieve like this heavier glaze here to introduce the reds towards the nose, or towards the tip of the nose. Just placing it there and cleaning the brush and then pulling the pigments out of the shadow more into the midtone area. I'm trying to keep the most intense colors here in the shadow area, but I'm trying also that it doesn't pool here, so we don't have like extreme red dots here. Also continuing here, adding very carefully glazes of red here to the lower side of the cheeks. I'm just pushing these contrasts here until they're just right with a color variation here. It's a little up to personal taste. I want to keep it somewhere between expressive and realistic, so we also don't want to overdo it, but I think we can show that in a speed up and come back to introduce some of the yellow tones here. Okay, we will just continue detailing out the eyes a little bit before we continue actually with the yellow oxide glazes, and we will do that mixing some red oxide, some red and a little bit of black. And we'll use that to do some outlining work here to the eye. And we will mix a glaze from the same color and apply that here in the transition area. And just for color harmony reasons, I will also add a bit of that same tone here. Also adding a bit of white. Okay, we'll also take a little bit of red and just place that here in the inner corner of the eye. Same here. While we're at it, we can also continue detailing out the eyes, so we're adding a bit of the yellow oxide as well to the mix. I want the eyes to be looking a little bit here, more into that direction. With a bit of black here to the side, we're creating a darker shade that we can use here on the top of the iris. And we're taking a bit of pure Albanon black here for the pupils. First the white highlight here. And we're also adding a bit of white here to the white of the eyeball itself. we're also adding a bit of white here to our brown to create like a smaller, brighter catchlight here on the lower side. I still want to increase the red in the eyes a bit, so just adding a bit of the pure red as a glaze here, then just feathering it out. And we're adding a small reflection dot here on that tear duct. With a bit of red just next to it. Okay, and we're adding a bit of white here to our purple and also a little bit of old mud to create like a nice purplish brighter highlight tone. And we're using that to highlight here the upper eyelids and also a little bit here along the lower lid. Okay, we'll continue here with a glaze of our of the color that we've used to outline the eyes. So red oxide, and black. Not too much black. Okay, I just use that here to block in the color on the lips, and we'll continue with our blue color zone, introducing some dark sea blue some of the old mud. Some more in a heavy glaze consistency, and we will use that here to introduce a bit of shadow tone under the chin. And also here to pull it up. Let that dry, and we'll continue with the next step. Okay, we'll continue adding a bit of the yellow oxide together with a tiny bit of the red oxide, not too much, and some of our old mud. And this creates a nice, more bronzed flesh tone. And we're using this again as a glaze, as a light glaze, introducing warmer shades here to our skin tone. And that warmer tone is quite nice because you can really use it as like an intermediate bridge between all the different nuances of tones that we have going on. So that slight blue-greenish impact here, together with the red rose tones here on the cheeks, and also the purple tones around the eyes. Right, so far I really love how the eyes pop out, but let's pick like a darker gray for the hair colors to really see where we're going. We're using some of the Abaddon black with some white and also a little bit of the old mud. I think that should be a nice tone. You will see the figure appears, I think, will be appearing quite differently once these like super white elements like the beard and the rest of the eyebrows are blocked out. Just this way our highlights will appear quite a bit more prominent here. Okay, we'll just continue outlining the beard and the eyebrows, and we'll be back to finalize our contrast. Alright, so we will continue with some of our hair color and some white. Maybe a bit of the old mud into our tone so we don't get a color that is too gray. Or too white actually in the finish. And we're using that in a fairly thick consistency, so we can just highlight here that mustache and just highlight the upper edges of each of these hair here. Maybe a bit more white. And we're working with the same shades here, also for the hair. You can see here in the back of the palette I've added some dark tone from Army Painter. Dark tone is very neutral in tone compared to the strong tone, for example. The strong tone is a bit more brown, so we'll just add a bit of the brown that we've used here for the eyes, a little bit, so we tint our wash so it has a little bit of color impact and it's not just black. And we will use that comparatively thin, so a medium glaze consistency, and we will use that here to play a little bit with the tonal variation in the shadow and also to maximize the contrast that we find. Now just with a wet brush, pulling it out here out of the shadows. And the bust has a very interesting stubble texture here from the beard. We're trying to also play a little bit with our wash here and let it gather into the recesses. And we're using this step again to bind things together. This is something that I described with other projects here as a neutral shadow, so a shadow with really not a lot of color impact, but a neutral tone that connects the different zones here in the face. We're also using plenty of it actually here in the shadow area under the chin. Alright, this concludes our skin tone so far, and we'll continue the next part with the leather. And I really love how that crazy sculpt got pushed into like its own very specific direction, using a very pale setup for the skin. And yeah, I can't wait to see how it works together with the armor colors and also the more intense other colors that we put next to it here on that canvas or leather hood. Alright, see you for the next part. Okay, I finished the last take actually thinking that the skin looks already good, but on my way home I just checked the pictures that I briefly took with my smartphone, and this is really like a good advice. Is sometimes it needs a little time to actually study the paint job that you did and see if you really like it or if it needs some adjustments. Just looking at the phone picture, I thought like, okay, the definition of the eyelids is actually not 100% what I want, and also some of these highlights here appear quite a bit too rough or too much dot-like. So I still want to soft that out, and I want to take care of the eye situation. So let's do that first. Okay, so on the palette you can see we still have some of that skin tone going on, and we will mix that back here with our purple tone. I really want to get a more defined highlight here on top of the eyelid. And a bit more of the skin tone and also a bit more white. You're creating an even brighter shade. And now just with the pure skin tone here, we're adding some more highlights here also on these. Okay, I already like that more definition that we've gained. I still want to push it here in some areas, like here. Just where I have the highlight. Yeah, I like that. Here in the eye, also that highlight here ends a little bit abrupt where we glazed in the red later. So with just a few glazes of our light skin tone. And soften that out again. Yeah, I like that. Okay, let's use the same tone here to the side and thin it down even a bit more to fix some of that highlights here. Okay, so first softening out the visible dot of the highlight also here before going a bit darker. Also here, let's see, we're working with medium glaze consistency. With the glaze, you really want to make sure that the glaze doesn't run uncontrolled out of the brush. So when you start to learn glazing, it can be quite helpful to really be careful with that step and wipe off the brush before on a paper tissue, so you don't allow the paint to pool on the surface and just leave a very thin and equal film of paint. Okay, you can see this highlight here on that small wrinkle above the nostril actually turned out a little bit too bright, and we're fixing that with a little bit of our, like a darker base tone here. I think that should be good. A bit thinner. Still just a little bit too visible for my taste, so we're continuing here with the glaze. Yep, I like that a lot more, and we'll use the same glaze here. Okay, I think I still want to push the highlight here a little bit on the cheeks, and I want to do that with a bit of the red here and plenty of white. So we have a very light pink tone, and then I'm adding that here to the transition area of the red and the white highlight. A bit more red in the mix, we can get that nice transition here. Also, the forehead area appeared quite a bit chalky, so I glazed over that actually before switching on the cam. So sometimes it's really worth waiting a bit, checking the model on a picture, and then go back to refine the areas that you like. I think so far this is really beneficial that I went back. So we're continuing here with a bit of the red brown that we have used previously, together with some white for some highlights on the lower lip. And a bit darker with more of the red in there. I still want to push the red under the cheeks a tiny bit more, and I'm doing that with the glaze of the pure red from Vallejo, and we're mixing like a thin glaze from that. You can see I'm starting with the glazes. I'm starting really quite a bit before the area where I want the red to be more visible. This way I can really pull the pigments from here all the way down there, and they collect here without leaving like stains over here. I'm now really happy with the look of that. Let me just rearrange the palette and we can have a go here on that canvas cloth-like cap. Alright, as you can see, we've rearranged the palette. On the palette we have some Schminke Titanium White, some Chimera Color Yellow Oxide, some Model Color Dark Sea Blue, some of the Army Paint the Dark Tone. Here we have some Abaddon Black, and here we have some Chimera Color Red Oxide. Decided to go for a warm colored cap just to have a stronger contrast to the skin tone. So we're first mixing the two oxides here, the yellow and the red oxide, to create an orange, and quite a bit of the... oh, we're actually mixing it over here so we can add more of the wash to it. And you can see the wash is like a black wash, and the more we add of that, the more it actually looks brown. Tone-wise, I think this here looks quite nice. You can see, because we used the wash, it's translucent by its own, so just load plenty of that in the brush. This way we can use the nicely sculpted texture and the black and white foundation here. Okay, I will also apply that on the back, and we'll be back once that layer is dry, so we can see how it looks and if we need a second layer. Alright, this is how the cap looks with just a one layer here of color on top, and I really like the look. It really defined nicely the texture that we find in the sculpt, but we definitely need to do some manual pick out work here to really define some of the highlights a bit more, and also to gain some separation here in these shadowy areas. We'll take some of that orange tone that we've mixed, not really from here from the very dark shade, but the slightly lighter one, and we will add white. Tiny bit of the yellow oxide as well. I think that should be good, and we're first using that here in the separation area between the shadow of the neck here. Down here it's not really that the sunlight would hit it all that much, but it's important to gain a visual defined area here that separates the two materials, just to really help the eye to spot where that separation is. Continuing that highlight here also along that upper edge. Here where we have the main highlight also of the face, we can use it a bit more on the surface of that edge here. And we can also go a bit brighter. And you can see here from the black and white foundation, actually this area catches quite a bit of light. Okay, going a bit darker here for the highlights in the shadow area. I'm just trying to make small lines that match the direction of the texture here. Okay, going a bit brighter again. I've remixed a bit of the highlight tone here. And going a bit brighter. I really want the highlights here on the forehead to be quite bright. Also, like maybe a bit paler than on the rest of the hood, because once we have the helmet in place, we need to make sure that this highlight here just matches nicely with the face. We will also use some of that initial tone that we've used, make it a bit darker by adding a bit more black here, and use that a bit more controlled as before, so here in that separation area. Also between that edge and the cap itself, and also here along the temple area a bit darker. Still want to push the saturation a tiny bit more on the forehead. So I'm using a bit of that initial orange that we mixed from the two oxides. I'm just glazing that here over the forehead. I think that's a bit more like the direction that I was going for. I think it's quite nice to have actually quite similar tones here on the cap and in his iris, just for color harmony reasons. I think this works really fantastic, and the rather warm brown cap makes the cool tones in the skin tone also a bit more contrasting. And yeah, I really like the look of that, and I can't wait to see how it looks with the armor. Alright,